It's a difficult question to ask without falling into the trap of just sharing platitudes and cliches. Honestly, I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is, first of all, it's very difficult to be young today. The pressures that the youth face is unimaginable. I can't even imagine, being, a 15, 16-year-old today, because with the pressure of social media and, the kinds of abuse, online abuse, the peer pressure, and also the false standards that have been created for us by that fake world, superficial world of what it means to be beautiful, what it means to be, even in some cases, intelligent, smart, and what it means to be accepted. Having said that, at the same time, because I believe everything happens for a purpose, and I believe that whatever is taken from us in this world, there's also a divine compensation as well. Because I don't think the universe is bad. I don't think the world is bad. I don't think the world is inherently evil. Therefore, there's divine compassion, divine mercy. And I think with all the problems that exist, it's also an exciting time. It depends on one's perspective. It depends on how you see life. Yes, there are lots of problems, but also because of the things that I mentioned, internet, for example, the access to information and having so much out there, it's also an interesting time to choose to be who you want to be. In a way, yes, there is peer pressure. There is, abuse of all sorts. But it's also an interesting time where you're able to tell right from wrong in many ways. What you want and what you choose in your life and what you want to eject from your life. If you like a certain type of music, it's no longer stuffed down your throat through radio. You can go to Spotify and choose what you want to listen to. If you like a certain type of movie or TV show, for example, you can just choose it. It's no longer the case where there's this monolithic industrial machine forcing down a certain culture, a certain music, or certain whatever down our throats. So we have a choice. We're in a much better position. The young people are in a much better position to choose the way they want to lead their lives than, say, the opportunities that I had as a teenager. Also, as I was saying earlier, looking at things with the right perspective is very important. Yes, with one hand, some things are taken, but with another hand, some things are provided to us. Opportunities are provided. So I think young people are, yes, with all the challenges and difficulties out there, it's important to realize that support is there for you. Things that did not exist in my time, all kinds of support, abuse, all kinds of difficulties and life choices that one might have. Support is there. Choices are there. You have choices. You have access to information, which in so many ways are positive. It's a positive thing because it allows you to discern, to choose what I want to accept in my life, to keep in my life, and what I want to eject from my life. So that's a great thing to have that choice. In a nutshell, without making it too long, first of all, this is a very serious subject. There's a lot of advice that can be given to youth, but also you got to also figure it out for yourself. have to try and figure things out for yourself, and that takes the time, which is fine. And older people have this urgency as well. They have this urge to constantly, give advice when it was never asked for. But since you've asked, I would say, listen, the most important thing, if you don't take anything, take this from this story, okay, from this Q&A. Don't worry so much. There's so much anxiety in this world, especially amongst the youth. Depression. What are you depressed about? Don't worry. Have fun. Enjoy your time. Don't worry about succeeding and wanting to be the best. And he did it. Look how many likes he got. His post was so successful. He got a great job. Look at me. Don't live for others. Live for yourself. Take it easy. If a 16-year-old today spent the next 15 years doing absolutely nothing, okay, if you're 16 and you did nothing for the next 15 years, you have nothing to worry about. You have nothing to worry about. I know some people won't like this, what I'm saying, but you have to stop worrying. You have to stop this anxiety. Oh my God, I haven't made it. What are you talking about? You're a kid. Enjoy your time. Be happy, be mindful, be grateful, and take your time. Don't feel any pressure. Don't feel pressure. And certainly don't worry about things. Try your best, and have an easygoing approach to life. That's what I would say. And I think a subject like this requires, a conversation with younger people. I'm youthful, but I'm young. I'm not a teenager, certainly. I'm going to be 40 soon. So, this is a conversation that we should probably have. Maybe we could have a symposium of some sort. We could have a gathering with me somewhere to discuss these things. But remember, you have choices, opportunities, abundance of information, an ocean, a universe of info and data at your disposal. And take it easy. Take it easy. There's quite a lot to say about the subject. I actually don't know where to begin. But suffice it to say that I don't think I'd be the person, I'd be a very different person if I was born somewhere else, or brought up somewhere else, sorry. And I didn't have, the upbringing that I had. And, didn't grow up in the UK, didn't grow up in London, especially. We learn from a very young age, growing up in the UK, that you don't judge people because of the colour of their skin, or because of their creed, or their religious beliefs. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. In fact, when I look back, I didn't say this before, I didn't see it before, but looking back, there was a lot of subliminal racism that I experienced. But it's subtle, and it usually is. But it's a different subject for another time. In general, I was taught to love everybody, irrespective of race, colour, creed, anything like that. London is, certainly in the 80s and 90s was different to what it is today. In many different ways. I'd say, though, it's still the best city in the world. It's the most amazing place on the planet. The closest thing to it is New York, but it doesn't come close. London is something else. Everything's happening all at once, and it's just buzzing all the time, and there's so much history, there's so much to learn. Every time you go, you're learning something new. It's just an incredible place, an amazing place, and I wouldn't replace it. I wouldn't replace growing up in London with. I learned that when somebody does something bad, you look at the action The action is bad, not the human being, not the person. The action is bad. So that's instilled from a very young age. Ironically, in a kind of dark way, that also applies to the country itself that had one of the largest empires in the world. Ironically, in a kind of dark way, that also applies to the country itself that had one of the largest empires in the world. You know, a lot of people were, in many ways, subjugated, and a lot of bad things happened. But it's the deed, not the people. Britain is still, with all the problems and Brexit, which I've stayed out of. I didn't want to talk about it publicly. One of my agreements with the WFP, with the United Nations, is that I can't talk about politics. I sometimes get away with it, but contractually, I'm actually not allowed. I get away with it sometimes, but I'm not allowed. From a very young age, very young age, we're taught about the Holocaust. We're taught about what took place, the 6 million Jews, the gas chamber. Anybody, my wife is German, and her grandparents have lived through that era, and they talk about it. When they talk about it, we get chills, of some of what took place, and the frightening similarities between their time and what's happening now. The tilt and the shift towards far-right politics and far-right rhetoric. It's very similar. And when they talk about it, we get chills. We pray, that it's just a short-lived fad. But the way you stop these things by first knowing what took place. And those things, as certainly in my time, we learn. And I think the youth, we have an amazing youth in the UK. We have an amazing youth, and much of the politics that I think is driving the UK, perhaps the wrong way, in the wrong direction, is coming from the older generations. It's not from the youth. Anyway, I don't know how we ended up here, but in a nutshell, we are taught. I was taught to love everybody, irrespective of anything. Unless it's a crime or it's and then it's not the person, it's the deed. And I'll be honest, I think much of these ideals are somehow connected to the church, the Anglican Church, the Queen, because the UK is still fairly religious in many ways. It's not like other parts of Europe. It's quite conservative still in many ways. So also becoming a practicing Muslim, and Islam and tradition, all these things came very naturally. For me anyway, the love of heritage, the love of cultures, tradition, the environment, the planet, so many of the things that I love and I'm passionate about now are related to my youth, related to my upbringing, related to, the city that I grew up in. And of course, there's so much more to talk about, like the unbelievable music that I was exposed to, classical music, the venues, the Royal Albert Hall, Royal Festival Hall, the Broadway shows, going to them as a kid. So much, the cultural aspect, so rich. Maybe we can discuss that on a separate occasion. I think this has been long enough. Bushra, I hope this has answered your question. Until tomorrow, same time, maybe a little later. I wish you all the very best. There's some work going on here, so I should go as soon as possible. God bless you all. Speak soon.